Hi, NUS Scotland 2012 Zone Conference. I'm Bonnie Stewart. I'm way over here in Prince Edward Island, Canada, and I'm going to talk to you about MOOCs. I'm a social media researcher. MOOCs are part of what I do. I also teach in the education faculty at UPEI as a sessional, and I'm also a grad student, so interesting convergence with the work that you folks do. MOOCs, are they going to revolutionize education? Should we be terrified of them? Probably both of those questions end up being somewhat polarizing. MOOCs are not one single thing, and therefore their potentialities and their pitfalls are not a single thing either. I think George Siemens, who actually started the first MOOC with Stephen Downes in 2008, said it best. And what he said was that MOOCs are the internet happening to education. The different models of MOOCs, and right now I say there is a spectrum of MOOCs, but you can largely sort of place most of the courses that you will find somewhere on the spectrum between connectivist, very open participatory, emergent content type MOOCs, and the X-MOOCs, which are the more organized, some nonprofit, some for-profit, usually attached to elite universities, much larger scale, but also much more predetermined content. They're basically the right or wrong answers kinds of MOOCs. To an extent, Coursera does offer some humanities courses that fall a little bit more in the gray zone. But those two models have essentially very different ways of utilizing the internet. And when you look at what's happening with the XMOOCs over here, where you have the content is largely teacher-driven, it is predetermined, they follow the model of traditional higher ed. And so NUS is a student organization, and for students, I would say that the XMOOCs probably end up being a more familiar model. They are not necessarily the most progressive pedagogy. Again, they differ, they're on a spectrum, but some of them are very much sage on the stage, talking head videos with the automated grading answers afterwards. They are really only utilizing the internet in its capacity to share and replicate content over distance for free, right? So you don't have to ship course materials and everybody can get stuff instantaneously, but their focus tends to be less on networking people and engaging people in participatory ways. Some of them, particularly Coursera, do involve people in peer-to-peer feedback and evaluation, but they're largely teacher-driven courses. The CMOOCs, which again exist on a spectrum, and there are a variety of things that could probably be said to fall under that name, they don't tend to scale as well. You have not yet, I shouldn't say, you may someday, but probably I would be surprised to see them run to a few 100,000 people. Because they're not necessarily predetermined content. They tend to be emergent content, people working together to figure out what the course is going to be and what the answers are going to be at the end. They tend to be far more distributed. The teacher is not in the center in the same way. And when you go in, they can be far more disorienting as well. And sometimes for me, the couple that I've participated in, I ended up really getting most of my course content out of a couple of peers whom I happened upon. I found their blog posts. I liked the way they wrote. They made me think, and they were the people that I engaged with. So I was almost taking a course from a randomly selected group of peers who I had no previous contact with, but who ended up becoming my own learning community afterwards and with whom I still am in contact. So in that sense, you'll see for a student, you've got quite a range of possibilities when it comes to MOOCs. I think that they're probably not going away. I don't think that they are the wave of the future that is going to bowl us all over in quite the way that they've been hyped. What you don't see with MOOCs is, at this point, particularly with the CMOOCs, accreditation. And so most of us as students, we're looking for one thing or the other. We tend to go into educational experiences looking to learn, but also looking for some kind of stamp at the end that says that we have learned. When you have a fully distributed course where even the instructor doesn't necessarily know going in what the content is going to be, it's very difficult for that facilitator to say, yes, this person deserves a stamp on the head and they've learned everything. So while there has been discussion about open badges and that type of thing to show that a person did contribute to a course, you are not going to be able to walk away from most CMOOC models saying, hey, please, industry, you can see how this relates to what you do because this is a predetermined set of outcomes that I have met. In the XMOOCs, you're already starting to see accreditation. And so I think that the divergence between the two models, while there are certainly places where I'm hoping that it will come back together, I think you are seeing major differences. I'm mostly just interested at this point in watching and seeing what happens. I do think higher ed is in a period of change, and most of us who are students are probably best to figure out what it is that we want to learn in a given context. There are ways in which, being face-to-face in a small seminar class has always had value, and I believe probably always will continue to have value. There are ways in which learning with a group of peers in the CMOOC sense to figure out stuff that isn't known, like what do MOOCs mean for higher ed, is really cool and really exciting and allows you as a student to be a knower and a creator of knowledge in a way that a conventional course absolutely never will. It may also really be fun to learn French for free. All those things are good. I hope you guys have a great conference. It is cool to talk to you, and you can find me online on Twitter at @BonStewart. Happy evening.